And we are back. How are you, Bish? I'm ready to go. I've had a win, which should put me around that playoff spot. So I'm in very high hopes. How are you? And how have you done this week?
Yeah, good. Another exciting week of games. We had obviously the Buffalo Bills smashing the Jets. Get right game for them, and the Jags, who I finally get rid of Trevor Lawrence. I sit Calvin Ridley on my bench, and they explode. So the Jags balled out. I've been calling it all year, and it's finally happened. And Tommy DeVito, an Oscar-winning performance for the Giants in that win. And yeah, the Lions saved my bacon against the in the best bets with a late comeback, and the Broncos are looking like a strong push for the playoffs. So it's all happening. I'm playing Stocky in fantasy. He's got Mahomes, Kelsey, and Pacheco tonight for the Chiefs. So, and I've got about a 50-point lead. So fingers crossed. It's an Eagles game or a quiet Chiefs game, and I'm looking all right.
Brilliant. Yeah, we've actually got for all the viewers watching, we've actually got a show that we've done with Sam, one of the people in our league who actually won the Twitter poll. That's in. Great show. We talked everything fantasy football, went over his team, what got him into fantasy football, and he's very knowledgeable. So it was a great show. A lot of information were on there. So I'd give that a tune in for some, obviously, a perspective other than mine and Bish, some of the lads who play it. He's in depth, and he definitely knew his stuff, didn't he, Bish?
Yeah, he did, and like you said, he started 0-4, and now he's in playoff contention. So if he wins tonight, that's four wins on the bounce. He's been in the market more than Sam Allardyce, in the January transfer window. So he's been doing bits, and it should be a good show for those to watch.
It is, yeah, and he brought up a quick talking point I want to give you is he brought up a thing that actually the Browns, how good of a season are they secretly having? He mentioned how no one are mentioning them, and I completely agreed when he said it. I went, yeah, I've never even really considered them, but they're a top team this year, Bish. I think it was a great point that he made, and what do you think to the Browns? Can they pull it through with just this ultra amazing defense, but not much offense? I don't know. It's going to be tough, but what do you think?
I think they're good. I think they're good enough to get to the playoffs. I just can't see them doing much in the playoffs. I don't think they've got enough points in them. But it's pretty impressive, as you said. They've got the number one running back went down week 2. The quarterback has been in and out all year. Now he's out for the season. And Myles Garrett I think his sacks are going through the roof. He's a sneaky MVP shout. So yeah, is that defense carrying them through games at times, and Dustin Hopkins, the kicker. We spoke about the kicker on the with Sam as well, and kickers have been winning games and racking up fantasy points this year. So yeah, they've got the defense. Obviously, defense wins championships, but I think in this day and age, you need a few more points in you. And I don't think they've got it, which is a shame. I think they'll come up just short. But yeah, it's a title division, that AFC North.
Brilliant. We'll get into it then, Bish, on the news of a couple of injuries on quarterbacks. We've got the injury report. I'm going to start us off. Obviously, as you said, Deshaun Watson's out, but the one I'm more interested in that I think has a lot of fantasy implications is Joe Burrow. He's out for the year, Bish. Obviously, you do know this. It's not a shock to you, but it'd be a shock to a lot of fantasy owners who have a lot invested in them Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers, and I guess Joe Mixon owners may be happy. But Bish, what are you going to do with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and some of the others on there that you might have took a punt on? Obviously, Tyler Boyd, that probably in a lot of fantasy teams on the bench, and you're thinking, can he? It's sad, Bish. There's been a lot of injuries this year, haven't they? Especially in key positions, in key newsworthy positions. No offense to all the others. I think they're not saying there's been a crazy amount of injuries, but it seems to have happened to all the interesting people in fantasy. So, yeah. What else can I say, Bish, other than I'm sorry if you're a Jamar Chase owner, if you're a T. Higgins owner. Joe Mixon, I think we still get to see Bish. Sometimes if the running back's very good, they can still get the points in, but otherwise it just stifles the whole team losing a star quarterback like Joe Burrow because they can't get any offense going. It's going to be interesting, but yeah, what's your take? Because mine's purely, I feel sorry for them owners, and I'd say look to trade before it properly. It hasn't gone under the radar because it's obviously massive news, but I feel like in terms of the general news, it's not actually been as big as it's not been smacked in my face like other injuries. It might be all over yours, but it doesn't seem to be as impacted as I thought a major injury would be, Bish. So I'd say if you can get a sneaky trade for one of them wide receivers to get them out, I would quick before obviously it fully clocks on to everyone that the Bengals are going to be no more for the rest of this year.
Yeah, I think it might be because it happened Thursday night. Obviously then we've had the weekend's games, but yeah, it's a cruel blow in a sort of stop-start season for the Bengals and Joe Burrow. I think if you've got Jamar Chase, I think he'll still get if anything, he'll get more volume. I think it takes his ceiling down a little bit. I think the floor's still there in terms of receptions. I think the backup quarterback came in, Browning, and actually threw a touchdown to him late on. So, but I think anyone else, Higgins, Boyd, definitely not. Your tight end, probably not. Mixon, I'm a bit mixed on Nixon. Mixon, I think he scored in his last three. He's been doing pretty well, but like now, teams had that threat of Joe Burrow throwing deep. I don't think they have that as much anymore. So maybe it stifles Mixon a little bit, but he's certainly going to get a lot of work. So maybe like you said, the quality is not there, but he's definitely going to get some quantity. So yeah. Can you, like you said, maybe package a trade and get someone else in? You'll probably have to take a hit on value, but if you're a team chasing the playoffs, I think it's definitely one that potentially could one that you've got to look at just to try and get a player in who's got that upside that Chase did have, and now I don't believe he does.
Yeah, completely agree. Best takes through your injury.
I'm going for the same game, the Ravens tight end Mark Andrews, and he started very well, 2 receptions. It looks like he was going to get in for a touchdown, and he's come a cropper to a leg tackle, and it's actually a cracked fibula and an ankle ligament injury as well. So he's out for the foreseeable. They thought it was season ending, but if the Ravens make a late playoff push. A deep playoff push, he might make it back. But in terms of fantasy and your sort of playoffs and I think he's pretty much out for that. So that's a massive blow in a market where there's not many good tight ends as we've spoke about all year really. So what can you do with Mark Andrews? I think I think it turns into a streaming, to try and replace him. You're looking at matchups week to week. The obvious answer would be to try and pick up his replacement, Isaiah Likely, who again is he's a serviceable quarterback. He proved last year he's a decent pass catching tight end. So yeah, maybe that's your option. I think wider impacts of this. I think it takes Lamar's takes a bit off him. I think Mark Andrews is a very good tight end. As we talked about, tight ends are the big bodies. If you're under pressure, you can find your tight end, and it's some easy yardage. So take him out of the lineup. Maybe puts a bit more strain on Lamar, but then also elevates possibly your Zay Flowers, your Odell Beckham. So those owners maybe get an extra boost along the way. But yeah, what are you doing in that situation, Joe? Obviously, if you're a Mark Andrews fan, Mark Andrews owner, you're coming up to the playoff stretch. What options are you thinking?
I'm crying because I think my season's coming over. Depending on how amazing, I guess, of a draft you had and how lucky you are in your deeper position, I think because Mark Andrews was a third or fourth round pick. I think he was a third round in most drafts, which in a tight end is obviously so high. Without exaggerating, I think it's fairly catastrophic if you've got a Kelsey, if you've got an Andrews, well, even Hawkinson this year, but especially them two because of your draft position. I think it's really tough for you because that means you'll be probably lighter in other positions. And there's just there's not many at the moment, Bish. I think other tight, unless you're taking a punt on them Chargers tight ends who had a pretty good week out of nowhere. I think a few of them got some points. I don't think there'll be many tight ends available. Like I said, streaming wise, that will be anywhere close to the value. So yeah, I'm devastated, and I might even I don't know what I'd do, Bish. I think your season's looking a lot more bleaker, knowing you're probably one of your best players on your team. That separates you from other teams. Because not everyone has a top tight end. Yeah, you're with the middle of the pack there, and I think a possible season-winning player in Mark Andrews is now, gone. It's a killer.
Not good.
Other than be negative, I don't know.
Yeah. There's not much else to be, is it?
No. I'll take you through my second one. I've got some good news after I've just given as much bad as I can. Devon Achane, they were worried he'd be. Obviously, the news reports were that he re-injured his same knee. But a bit of good news, it's not season-ending. It's not another break of an ACL or an MCL. It's nothing like that. So he should be back in the next coming weeks. So a bit of good news for Achane owners who at one point thought, wow, you've just got him back and he's injured within the first 5 minutes of the game. So yeah, bit of good news for you there, Bish. I don't know what else to say, really.
No, I'm one of those who are excited to have him back, and a few carries later, he's back on the sidelines, and you're thinking, oh my god, I'm looking at 1.5 points from running back that I thought would be double figures. So yeah, good news for him. Hopefully he's back pretty sharpish and helping you win your, because he is I think a winning running back, definitely week to week. And I'm going to go on the negative for my next one, and it's again a running back. It's Kenneth Walker of the Seahawks. He went down with what looked like an oblique injury early in the first quarter, and some of these you can play through them. I think Christian McCaffrey managed to play through his, but afterwards in the press conference, Pete Carroll said it's could miss some time is the quote. So, and they're actually on a short week. It's Thanksgiving Thursday night. So I think he's pretty much out of that one. So, that's a big goal for people to fill. He's been racking up some touchdowns as well earlier on in the season. He's been a big back, and I think if you're a Zach Charbonnet owner, it's great news for you, because I think he's going to come in and be the workhorse back there. He racked up just under 10 points against the Rams yesterday, 15 carries. But the biggest thing is the pass catching back as well. He had 6 targets, 6 receptions. So, obviously in a PPR league, half PPR that we play in, they're gold dust, those receptions. So, unlucky for Kenneth Walker owners. Hopefully it's only, 1 to 2 weeks and you get him back. But if you're a Charbonnet owner, you're rubbing your hands, I think.
Yeah, you are, Bish. Like I said, it's he was drafted really high as well. I think a lot of people were shocked, weren't they, that they drafted him so high with Kenneth Walker there. But I guess Pete Carroll knows something we don't, and obviously the running back position is the most injury-prone position in the league, and I don't blame him for having 2 stud running backs in there, because obviously if he thinks he's got a chance in the playoffs, if someone like Kenneth Walker normally goes down, means them hopes are a bit dashed. Someone like Zach Charbonnet coming straight in, you're still in the fight, however tough it might be at this point of the season with Geno Smith having his woes. But I think you're still in the fight, aren't you, Bish? You still got a fighting chance for one of Charbonnet's talent in there. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's time for more negative. The fantasy flops. We've a bit of bad news start off the show, but we end it always on a positive. My fantasy flop this week, I'm going a double position play. I'm going 2 players on the same team. I'm going the New York Jets' Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson. It's been a tough year for that Jets offense. They were obviously incredibly high hopes under Aaron Rodgers. They thought Zach Wilson might be serviceable. He's not been Bish. He looks a shadow of the same. I I kind of got emotional for him. There was a montage on Twitter of what happened to this man. It was him jumping up, being confident. Went, Jesus, yeah. Sometimes you see that and you go, well, I think the NFL does have a problem with this. They don't like them show-off quarterbacks. They don't like this gregarious. They like Joe Burrow looking cool, but when they're a bit out there, Baker Mayfield in your face, Zach, as he was, chuck it back, catching it in your face, I think they don't always like them. So they normally get knocked. The confidence normally get knocked. Johnny Manziel's in the same boat. If they're in your face confident, it's a system where they don't really get ahead. And it's seen here now, he just looks a shadow of himself. He looked, frankly, awful. 81 yards, got a passing touchdown, 8.1 points. But yeah, 81 yards in a whole game, shocking. And obviously, that's affecting Garrett Wilson, who was drafted extremely high. I think he was early second round wide receiver. If I'm remembering correctly. You're not giving me a nod or thing there, but I'll hope he's.
My memories, I'm not sure.
But yeah, he got minus 0.1 points, so 0.1 points, I think. But yeah, it's sad for Garrett Wilson. It's totally eliminated him as a fantasy play. Obviously, if you drafted him, you're again devastated. He's not been that serviceable, and Zach Wilson may be the cause of it, or it might be the NFL system. It's probably a good debate to have whether quarterbacks like in Zach Wilson's mould can succeed. Because they just, I think, I know in rugby league, Bish, there's certain ways they want players to be, and I feel like it's the same in NFL with quarterbacks. They want them to be a certain way, and when that don't fit, it's get in line, play this way, do this, don't show yourself off. And it leads to Zach Wilson absolutely void of any confidence, and the New York Jets not achieving anywhere close to really what they can do if they had any serviceable quarterback other than Zach Wilson in there.
Yeah, I think you called it there. His confidence is absolutely in pieces, isn't it? It's just you can just see, and in New York, media scrutiny, they're expected to do so well. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers goes down, and yeah, I feel for him a little bit if I'm honest. But yeah, it's I think it's a bit like you've got to prove it in the league first before you got that showmanship and before you that bravado. And if you can't back it up, yeah, they come for you straight away. And Garrett Wilson, I think it's the first game he's not had at least 12 targets and 80 yards. He had that in his last 4, and this one he was just shut out. Yeah, like you said, minus fantasy points. I think he had a fumble in there as well. And that offense, it's Sean Payton absolutely ripped into Nathaniel Hackett, saying at Denver, he left them in an awful situation, and I'm looking at the Jets, and whether you've got Zach Wilson, whether you've got Aaron Rodgers, you've got Garrett Wilson, you've got Breece Hall, and that's it. And it's not creative. It's pretty bland stuff. And maybe he's got a bit of a point, Sean Payton. Maybe he has but yeah, it's been a tough season for Zach Wilson, and I think he's been benched. Actually, Tim Boyle is I think been listed as starting this week, so that could be the end of him in New York. I think
it is, Bish. Yeah, as it wrote down here, I was going to say, Tim Boyle, the new starting quarterback. Hopefully, he can provide any sort of offense. Like I said, Garrett Wilson, like I said, probably still been okay for you, but not that second round, not that early second round pick. I think you wanted, and imagine what he could do with a proper quarterback in. No offense to Zach Wilson, if he had anyone else, he'd be. I think he'd be a top tier QB. But yeah, as you said on the Nathaniel Hackett one, quite interesting because he won early on, didn't he? They beat the Denver Broncos in the second game of the season, third game of the season, was it? And then he won that argument. They were all saying, yeah, Nathaniel, as it gets later and later, Denver do better and better. Jets struggling on offense. It's kind of changing it. I've seen more calls on Twitter about what you just said, Bish. And by the end of the season, Sean Payton might be having that last laugh again.
Yeah, definitely. If he can nick that playoff spot. And just rolling into mine, my number one is Quinton Johnson, and You know, I'm not one to bag young players, but you know, the rookie in a big moment, you know, he's dropped what could have been a game winner, or at least put him in field for a game clinching in field goal, and you know, he's beat the defender, it's come over his shoulders, and it's just a cold drop. And you know, a first round pick, you know, a big call by the Chargers picking him. Mike Williams goes down, he's thrusted into the lineup, and he's not really delivered. You know, we've seen other rookie wide receivers, you know, come in this year and be unbelievable. You know, your Addisons, your Tank Dells, etc. And it's just not happened for Quinton Johnson. And in a team that's underperforming and, you know, fine margins, they're not quite there. You know, it's shown up for this one. So yeah, it's an unfortunate moment for him, and hopefully he can bounce back and put the doubters in the place next week.
The only positive I can give it is he was wide open, to be fair to him. He beat his man. It wasn't a run where the defensive covers screwed up and he just ended up open. He beat his man, to be fair. So I guess the one saving grace, if we can keep that and get them hands a bit more solid and take away a lot of them chop catches this year, because there've been a fair few. Takes the good parts and works on the bad. You've probably got some player there, haven't you? It's just, yeah, this year it's just been such a frustrating one, hasn't it? As you said, so frustrating for him, because you can see there's something there, but he's just not quite delivering.
Yeah, hopefully, like you said, he grows into it, and it's a learning experience this year, and next year he hits the ground running.
On the other end of things, I've got Austin Eckler as my second fantasy flop. 64 yards and a fumble, 6 fantasy points. There's not loads of news, but to me, he's clearly injured. I don't know what you think, Bish. There were a big surge on Twitter. He broke around the edge, went running. He looked slower than my grandma out there. It looked bad. And I think he's come back from his high ankle sprain. And I think the truth is he doesn't look quite ready. He's a brilliant pass catching running back. He's explosive. He's got the thighs bigger than my bloody body. He's on, and he just don't look quite ready. So I think fantasy owners prepare for this. Maybe not drop him, because he's got a few days to recover, hasn't he? But yeah, I think give him a week or two. Don't have him up there. Maybe if you've got 2 other great running backs, play them instead. Because I think he'll need a couple of weeks. Because to me, he don't look fully healthy, and there's something definitely up with him from the video footage from the game.
Yeah, I saw that run, and like you said, yeah, he did. They caught up with him very quickly, didn't they? I thought maybe he might have been a bit fatigued, but yeah. And you know, next week he goes up against Baltimore as well, so that's another tough game for him. He's got a good playoff run, so maybe for those fantasy owners, can he, you know, not take a few weeks off, because you know that's not going to happen. But can he get right in these next 2 weeks and then hit the ground running in the playoffs? He's got the Raiders, the Bills, and the Broncos. So you know, it's a nice matchup for him if he can be fit for them.
Yeah, I agree. This takes through your second fantasy flop.
My second one is Stefon Diggs, the wide receiver for the Bills. You know, a big performance, big win from the Bills, 32-6 against the Jets, and you know, Josh Allen, a bit of redemption. You know, throws for 3 touchdowns, 275 yards. And I'm sat there thinking, yes, Stefon Diggs, you know, this is the game. I've got my touchdown. I've got, you know, 80 to 100 yards. And, you know, it's not quite like that. He's got 4.7 fantasy points this week in the punt. 4 catches off 8 targets and only 27 yards, you know, for your wide receiver one. And, you know, the Jets secondary is pretty good, to be fair. You know, obviously, you know, Diggs being the main man would lock him up, but I'm just expecting a bit more, if I'm honest. You know, we spoke about him last week. You know, he didn't get that touchdown last week. Had a little bit of a whinge. You know, you see stuff on social media. We thought this would be the week where he comes back, you know, with a vengeance, and you know, it wasn't quite there. So yeah, Stefon Diggs, for those owners, picked him as a wide receiver one. You know, it was a tough week for you.
Yeah, covered it there. Yeah, tough week. I think the question is, Bish, that I'll chuck back on you is, where do you think for the rest of the season he ranks in terms of wide receiver rankings? Have you still got him up there, or you're definitely using this as a lesson to probably hedge your bets a bit and maybe trade or trust more of your other wide receivers?
I'm just bringing up his schedule, but from memory, it's quite tough. Well, they actually do. He's also got a bye thrown in there as well. So he's got the Eagles next week, and the Eagles secondary is beatable, as we've seen this year. So that's a potential one. But he finishes this, then his bye, then he finishes the season with the Chiefs and the Cowboys back to back. Two good defenses. And then in the playoffs, week 16 and 17, he's got the Chargers and the Pats. So a bit mixed, if I'm honest. I'm definitely starting him next week. And then you've got a 3-week spell, with a bye and 2 tough games where you're probably looking at your options. But I think you're going to have to play him, depending on your team makeup. If he's your wide receiver one, if you're trying to get in the playoffs, if you're already in the playoffs, maybe you can afford to bench him. But if you're struggling to get in the playoffs and you need him, I think you're going to have to play him just on the chance that he's got that upside. I mean, he's put two subpar performances together under 5 points, but apart from that, he's been 19 points week 9, 11, 14, 15, 20, 33 points. So, I think morale's down a little bit. Maybe a get-right game next week, a bye week, and then potentially, the sulking's forgotten and it's all back and smiles.
I think what I'm certainly doing, though, is depending on who my wide receiver 2 is, if that's more of a boom and bust player, I'm having my flex as a very safe 10 points guaranteed as much as you can player. Because if, like you said, I think now he's gone from Mr. Consistent wide receiver to getting to boom and bust range, where he's obviously capable of them amazing weeks. So I'm looking for some consistency probably in the rest of my lineup to cover of a Diggs bad week, rather than maybe playing an exciting, maybe a Quinton Johnson on a punt or that sort of player where you're like, well, it probably won't, but if he does, he can get me 20 plus points. I'm taking that all off the table and playing my safe bets on my bench rather than the exciting ones, just to cover for Diggs is up and down now.
Yeah, I like that. Or even, you could possibly throw a sneaky trade out there. If someone does believe in him, believes he's got that upside and bounce back, then, like you said, can you swap him for someone a bit more sturdy?
Yeah. All right, Bish, I think we're on to the next one. We're on to your segment, I believe. We have got... Oh, no, you've got one more, Bish. I've dived in, Anna.
No, I've done me too. Johnson and Diggs. Yeah.
Well, we're back on it. We're on Bish's breakouts. The top players of the week. Bish, lead us in.
I think I mentioned him a bit earlier, but my Oscar performance of the week has got to be the man, Tommy DeVito. Stepped in for the Giants. He's still living at home. His mum makes his bed, cooks his tea, as he said in an interview recently. But he delivered. He got him a win against the Commanders. 22.5 fantasy points in the punt. He actually got sacked 9 times. He's took a battering, but he's got up off the canvas 10 times, and he's thrown 3 passing touchdowns. He's 18 out of 26, and 246 yards. So, massive performance in a game that there were, big underdogs as well. No one expected much from the Giants after Daniel Jones went out. He's come in and he's put in a great performance, which can only fill him with confidence, and probably one. I'm not sure. Are you happy, with the Giants winning? They were 2-8, looking like a top in the battle for that number 1 draft pick, and now, Tommy DeVito's somehow pulled the win out of the bag, and if he keeps going, he's taking him away from his replacement.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, what I like about him is what I love about Taylor Heineke. A lot of the QBs that come in the league from the bench play safe, play boring, play very bland style of football, obviously trying to retain probably bench services on other teams in years to come, thinking, I'll be known as the safe man. what I loved about Tyler Heineke a couple of years ago on the Commanders as well. What Redskins, there's been a couple of names, haven't they? But through that period, and obviously now at Atlanta and other places, whenever he's got in, he's been gung-ho and he's played his style. He's gone for it, and this is what I see in Tommy DeVito. However good you think he is, he's not changing for you. He's not changing for the coach. He's playing his style. He's playing a good attacking football, and it's good to see in it. It's not some of them other QBs over the years when you know they're coming in. You know it's going to be a long, drawn out game, a lot of runs and a lot of safe bets and a lot of short downs. Where Tommy's going, no, I'm here to play. I'm Italian. I'm having fun, and I'm living with my mum. And he's I didn't even mean to rhyme. But yeah, clip that up, Bish. Get that viral, son. No, but yeah, I really like his play style. The point is, yeah, I like his play style. Like that he doesn't care and he's not playing safe to secure his contract in the future. He's going for it, and obviously it worked.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, and that is definitely getting clipped up. That
I'm proud of that one. Bish, take us to your second top player of the week.
My second, I'm combining it, and I'm going with the Jags duo of Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley. And I drafted them this year in fantasy as a double stack, and I waited 10 weeks, and I didn't get the action, and I traded Lawrence. I actually released Lawrence to pick up Justin Fields, and I've had Calvin Ridley sat on my bench, and they delivered this week against the Titans. They took him to the cleaners. Trevor Lawrence 32 points, Calvin Ridley 27.5 points. And Lawrence 2 rushing touchdowns thrown in there as well. 2 passing, 2 rushing, 262 yards. And Calvin Ridley, the big game I was waiting for, it happens, and he's sat on my bench, and if I go to put him in future weeks, I'm sure it won't return. So yeah, I think I've missed my week with him, but he's 103 yards, 7 out of 9 catches, 2 touchdowns, and 1 rush for 18 yards as well. So it's been coming. As I said, we've talked about them. They're now firmly sat as the leaders of the AFC South, and pushing the top dogs in the rankings. So yeah, they're looking good. Trevor's letting it look, looking good as well. So yeah, long may it continue.
Yeah, but yeah. I don't trust Calvin Ridley, to be honest with you, Bish. I think he'd be the type of player I liked earlier on before I started getting to itchy waters in the league position that he is boom or bust into. But I know you're a safe bet man. You like your consistency. You like your high floors. I don't think Calvin Ridley is a best bet Bish fantasy player for any season after this.
Well, you know what they say, Joe, sell high. So
yeah,
watch this space.
Well, get the offers in quick before we post the video so they know. I will take you through my second top player of the week, and similar to you, Bish, I'm doing the Green Bay Packers offense. Obviously, Jordan Love, brilliant game. I do actually like Jordan Love. He gets some stick, Bish. He got 20 fantasy point, 20.88 fantasy points. I like him as a QB. He's got Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson as his top 2 wide receivers, and fair play to Romeo Doubs. He's had a good year. He's been steady. Christian Watson's more the boom or bust wide receiver on the team. But neither of them are stars at this moment. I can't say they're not in future, but at this moment, they've still got a lot to learn. Christian Watson's had some dropping issues. Romeo Doubs is a steady wide receiver. He probably won't reach that top end wide receiver thing. Christian Watson can do, but they're still learning. You can see it on there. The running backs have been not very good this year. Aaron Jones has took a step back. AJ Dillon's not been non-existent. He's had a couple of randomly good games, I think, like yesterday. But he's not been good on the year, and that's been Green Bay's strong suit for a couple of years, obviously, along with Devontae. So I like Green Bay. I love Jordan Love. long may it continue. I've given a lot of stick this year. I keep betting against them, and every time I do, it's not come off. So I'm going to start giving some love to Green Bay on the betting show, I think, Bish, because Dobbs, Watson, Love, combo for the future, add another wide receiver. I think, sorry, I'm ranting now, but I think add a top wide receiver in there, maybe draft one in the draft or go and trade for a top one. You've got a core of a brilliant wide receiver group because I like Watson's upside. I like Dobbs' safety. And let's go get a top wide receiver in there to get one of the best wide receiver cores in the league, Bish.
Yeah, and they're refreshing. I think, another few I'll throw in there. Jalen Reed, who he had some rushing plays and took a big one. Wicks, he had a good game, and I think the problem he's got is obviously, he's going to be compared to Rodgers. They used to dominating the North, getting relatively deep in the playoffs and coming up short. So I think it's refreshing to see him. Like you said, Luke Musgrave at tight end as well, another young player. So it's I think the future's bright for him. And I watched him pretty close up against the Rams a couple of weeks ago, and in that second half, he were pretty close to perfect. So yeah, as with any young player, you're going to get ups and downs. But when it clicks, and they're really good. So yeah, can they get another sort of older wide receiver? I think they need some help at running back. I think that'll come in the draft. And who knows what might happen with that offense.
Yeah, like it. Next one, Bish. The most important, and he says, I don't mind saying what gets the most views. We've got the Punt projects. We've got the waiver wire pickups. Take us through yours for this week, Bish, who we've got to pick up on the waiver wire.
My number one pickup this week on the waiver wire is Khalil Shakir, the Bills wide receiver. He's currently owned in 21% of sleeper leagues. He's sort of showing up as he's a bit of boom and bust at the minute, but he's showing up as I think he's making a claim for the wide receiver 2 spot for the Bills. We've got Diggs on one side and they need some help, and I think he's showing up. He had 19 points yesterday against the Jets, 115 yards, 1 touchdown on 3 catches. So, he is boom or bust. He's not going to be a guy that gets you a ton of receptions, but, it's when he does touch the ball, it's usually an explosive play. So, yeah, I think he's one there that will give you that upside that you're looking for in your team, and definitely one that, if you can't get him in your team, definitely one to have on your bench and pick matchup to matchup. So yeah, Khalil Shakir, I think is settling in as that Bills wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, we actually discussed it on the show with Sam, didn't we? A bit of this, Bish. Just plugging that one again. I agree, boom or bust, but he's explosive. Shouldn't be that good 5th round pick, as Sam said, but they need someone to step up other than Stephon Diggs, and looks like he's going to be the man to start getting himself some more targets from Josh Allen. I've got one, Bish. He's owned in 60% of leagues, so it's not the best call I've ever made. It's on this Green Bay offense, and I'm giving them more love. I've got Romeo Dobbs in sleeper. His own that is 60% of leagues, but only started in 23%. It's time to start starting this man. Over previous weeks, he's been a wide receiver 10 in the first week, wide receiver 13, wide receiver 14. Last week, he got 13 points. He's got 10 points the week before that. This man's a steady bet. If you need that floor, Bish, if you need that floor of 10 points plus, he's a player that I'm looking at. I think I'm going to go get him myself. I've got a lot of boom and bust players. It's probably very egocentric to what I need and my team's this pick. But if you've got a team that's boom or bust and you've got no consistency, go get Romeo Dobbs. He'll get you that 10 points that you need rather than the 2 or 3 that are weak killers. I think he's the one you want, maybe in that flex position where you've got someone crazy, you've got some big up and downward, maybe a Stephon Diggs as we've discussed, maybe a Garrett Wilson, maybe a few others, and go get that consistency with Romeo Dobbs. Go get that guaranteed 10 points, because I think at this point in the league, especially if you're where I am in like 5 and 5, 5 and hopefully 6 and 5, if it all goes well tonight. I need some safe bets, Bish, because I've not gone with them this year, and it's bit me in the foot at times.
Yeah, we've just talked about the offense, and just looking at the schedule, they've got the Lions next week that you'd think would be, fairly high point scoring game there. We've got the Giants still to play, and the Bucks, who were not very good against those wide receivers as well. So there's some matchups there to pick up, could be that guy who, as you said, you've got that minimum 10 points, and if your Jags a touchdown thrown in there as well, you could be laughing.
Brilliant. Bish, every comment I've made, you've saved me with some better stats that are out, so I appreciate that, because I'm diving in. You're coming in with some stats that are well needed to support my point. So yeah, I just thought I'd give you a quick shout out there. It's saving my bacon quite a few times.
Well, that's me. I like my stats. I like my spreadsheet. So yeah, I'm very analytical. Sometimes it doesn't pay off in the best bets, but I'll stick with it.
It's working better than my free-flowing see what you play, what you see way. So I like it. But Bish, have you got one more waiver wire pickup for us?
I will mention he's owned 41% in sleeper, but Odell Beckham Jr. The last 2 weeks I've had a good look at him, and last week he had 116 yards off 4 catches, and the week before he took a slant to the house. He looks sharp. He looks back, and obviously off that ACL, sometimes it takes a season or just over to get back into the full swing of it. But he looks sharp. He looks good. He did pick up a little bit of a shoulder injury at the end of the game, so that's one to look at. But from all reports, it's not too serious. So Odell Beckham again, another one that it might be worth having a look at and keeping in your team.
Brilliant, yeah. All good, Bish. We've got our favourite one, the part that's named after us, the punters, the best kicker of the week and the best segment of the week. Who is your best kicker of the week, Bish?
My kicker of the week is Will Lutz of the Broncos. Racked up 17 points this week, 5 out of 5 on field goals, with a long of 52 yards. And he was instrumental in their close win against the Vikings, 21-20. So he kept the scoreboard ticking over for him, and they came back and won it with a touchdown late. So Will Lutz.
Brilliant. And I've got, I'm going for one for the rest of the season that might be dropped this week. So I'm trying to outplay a lot of fantasy owners. I'm going Brandon Aubrey, the former soccer player, the brilliant story. He only got 8 points for a kick for himself, which isn't the best compared to what he's got in previous weeks. He might be dropped. There might be other streamers. Go pick him up, because he missed his first field goal of the season on Sunday, and I think if he gets into that dropping category, pick him up. It was a tough loss, a tough miss, but he's been phenomenal throughout the rest of the year. And I'd say if he drops onto any waiver wires, be quick to pick him up, because other than this 8 points, he's consistently very good. He's had an 18-point week, an 11-point week, a 12-point week, and a 13-point week. Pick up Brandon Aubrey if he's available, because he's got a great story and someone who you can follow. And I think the Red Zone mention him quite a lot, because he's got a good story with his soccer background and coming in and not really having that football base. So you'll be able to watch him a lot as well.
Yeah, and in that high-powered offense, you're likely going to see him quite a bit, because the scoring points for fun.
Yeah. But Bish, take us through the outro, your final thoughts. Obviously, you can't hear me mention again how it's been an unpredictable year to make myself feel better. So you give us some final thoughts and take us out.
Yeah, we'll finish the week with it's actually the Super Bowl rematch tonight. The Chiefs and the Eagles. We'll just before I do that, Joe, what do you reckon? Give us a prediction for that one.
Bish, I can't. I'm having a shocker. Right. I am going to go the Kansas City Chiefs. For the selfish reason, I've got just a little wide receiver that I think could have a big week, Bish. And I'm excited for him. And Rashee Rice is going to have a big game tonight. He's going to do awesome for my fantasy. And I might have him on 1 or 2 bets as well, because I think you alluded to it earlier on in the show. Philadelphia 32nd against the wide receiver position. Brilliant offense, but them cornerbacks aren't doing it this year. And Rashee Rice could be in for one as Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's not watching Travis Kelce, so Patrick Holmes will need someone else to throw to.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I'm going to lean the other way. I'm going to be on my brother's side and lean the Eagles. They get the revenge. But yeah, it's been a good week. Short turnaround this week. Thanksgiving is upon us on Thursday, so we'll have an early betting game for that, a betting show for that. On those 3 games, and there's a Black Friday game as well. So plenty of NFL for the rest of the week. And please subscribe. We've got a fantasy chat with Sam coming out pretty soon as well. So yeah, please like, any comments, get them in. Any questions for any future guests, get them in, and we can ask them. Also, if you click the bell, you'll never miss any content. And we're on all the socials. So yeah, plenty of content coming. The fantasy playoffs are heating up. We've got 3 weeks left after this one, and I think there's 2 spots up for grabs in our league. So yeah, it's going to be a good finish.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Bish, and we'll see you on Wednesday morning for our betting preview of the Thanksgiving games. Not Wednesday morning, Thursday morning.
Thursday morning.
See you Thursday morning.